Hey y'all, happy Wednesday. I'm doing crockpot Wednesday today. We're going to just make a roast with potatoes and carrots. I've got physical therapy this afternoon, and by the time I get home from physical therapy, I don't feel like cooking. So I'm cooking now, let it cook all day, and have dinner when we get home. So I've got about 6 potatoes here. I use Yukon Golds. These had a couple of eyes on them. I cut those off with a little bit of potato attached. I'll stick those in a box and I'll plant those in the garden next year. So if they're still like viable by next year. So I'm just going to chunk my potatoes up, quarter them, about 4 pieces for each one. If you're using bigger potatoes, you'll want to make them a little bit smaller, but about that size. Going to throw those in the crock pot. As usual, you know, I'm only cooking for 2 plus a little leftovers because the kiddo likes to take leftovers for lunch. So if you have a bigger family, this recipe is easily doubled. Alright, potatoes are in the crock pot. Now I've got a pound of carrots here. I do not peel my carrots. They're going straight from the bag into the crock pot. I'm going to cut the tips off. Cut them into about 2-inch pieces where they're fairly close to the same size as the potatoes. Pretty close. I may or may not use the whole bag. I'm not sure. We'll see how we go. But we don't want the butts or the tips in there. I'm not going to use the whole bag of carrots. I'm only going to use about 3 carrots. In typical child fashion, my child does not like carrots or any vegetable other than potatoes for that matter. So I'm the only one that's going to eat the carrots. So 3 carrots is plenty. Alright, those are in there. Now, I have a whole loin roast here. I'm only going to use half of this. I'm going to cut this in half, put half of it in the freezer for next time, and that way I get 2 meals out of it for $12. About half. Okay, before I put my meat in the crock pot, I want to get some seasoning down on my potatoes. So what I use for seasoning is beefy onion soup mix, beef bouillon powder, a little bit of pepper, and then beef broth over all of it. You don't want to, I don't like adding extra salt because that bouillon powder and this onion soup mix, they have plenty of salt, plus the beef broth, plenty of salt in there. Later, when it's done, if you need more salt, you can add it. So I'm going to add about half a packet of the onion soup mix just over the top of my vegetables. And then, I don't measure this. I also have used, or what I normally use, is an au jus packet instead of bouillon powder because it's basically the same flavoring. But I don't have one today, so we're going with what we got. And a little bit of pepper here. Black pepper, of course. We use the big restaurant style cracked pepper. All right, now that my vegetables have some seasoning over the top of them, I'm gonna add some beef broth, maybe like 2 cups. You don't want to add a whole lot because your meat is going to produce quite a few juices and you want to be able to use that. Yeah, that's about 2 cups. It's just about 3/4 of the way up the vegetables. All right, now I'm going to put my meat in, fat side down, because we want our seasonings to get on the good part of the meat. All right, now we're going to season our meat. Pepper. The rest of this. Does anybody actually use these onion soup packets to make soup? I have never made onion soup out of a packet. I have only used them to season things. Meatloaf, hamburger steak, roast. We do pork roast because it's cheaper. Beef is way too expensive. The only beef we eat in this house is ground because mama's poor. About that much. And now we're just gonna lid it and let it go on low for probably, let's see, it's 9 o'clock now. It'll probably go for like 10 hours, 9 or 10 hours on low. The house will be smelling muy delicioso when I get home from physical therapy. So we'll just let it go.